Welcome to Abide in Beauty. This is a series of Visio Divina that will be held on Sunday evenings. We're sponsored by the St. Monica Institute of the Archdiocese of Toronto. And we look forward to walking with you on Sunday evenings throughout the liturgical year.
Hi, my name's Les Miller. I'm an educator and a catechist. Currently, I'm teaching online faith formation with the catechists in the Archdiocese of Toronto. I'm also an author with Novalis. My most recent book is Northern Light, a Canadian prayer book. Our first task this evening is to explore the term Visio Divina, which is a way of praying with art. What is Visio Divina? Well, Visio Divina is a way of drawing closer to God through contemplating images. Visio Divina is Latin for divine seeing. In its classic form, it meditates on sacred art, architecture, and sculpture. Think of Da Vinci's Last Supper, the wonder of Gothic cathedral like Notre Dame, or the Pietà by Michelangelo. Visio Divina is linked with Lectio Divina, the better-known method of prayer that focuses on contemplative reading of gospel passages. Cardinal Collins has a beautiful series of Lectio Divina on YouTube. Classical Lectio Divina has 4 movements: Lectio, or reading; Meditatio, or meditation; Oratio, praying; and Contemplatio, or contemplation. Visio Divina is not the standardized form that Lectio Divina is, and you'll find variations on the method in Visio Divina. One thing that runs through all these methods is the quest for finding God in the image, text, and process itself. The method of Visio Divina used here is based on Lectio Divina, but adds an introduction and conclusion, making it a 6-stage journey. This form outlines the stages in Visio Divina that we'll be using. It's available at lesmiller.ca. We begin with preparation. We not only arrange for the items in a prayer place, but we also settle our mind and our hearts for prayer. We remind ourselves why we are doing this particular Visio Divina and what we hope to encounter. So let's do that now, as we enter our meeting with Caravaggio's Supper at Emmaus. Silently ready yourself for this experience for a few seconds. You'll recall that Visio Divina means divine seeing, and we are asked to gaze the eyes of our heart upon the sacred scenes, to contemplate the presence of God. Visio Divina, like its sister prayer practice Lectio Divina, has an underlying question running through all the steps. Where is God found in this moment? Supper at Emmaus was chosen because it's a great reading for the Easter season. It was last Sunday's reading, and we do want to use liturgically appropriate art for the liturgical year. Prepare yourself for this Visio Divina by making sure that your prayer environment is suitable and you won't be disturbed for the duration of this activity. You choose the pace at which you wish to pray. Each person is a little different. So observe the rule, pray at the pace of grace. That is, pray in such a way that you feel best accompanied by the sacred. Settle yourself in an appropriate prayer space. Center yourself in quiet prayer, opening yourself to the flow of the Holy Spirit. In this video, you can stop at any time, pause it, if you need more time to contemplate what is going on, to pray deeper. Gaze at the image. What details do you notice? What's going on in this scene? What feeling does it evoke? Where is the sacred in this painting at first viewing? A reading from the Gospel according to Luke. Now on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all the things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them said, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how their chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. We had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" The Gospel of the Lord. Based on your encounters with this passage in Art and Word, what one word would best describe your response to this illustration of the story? Let's pause as we meditate over the overarching question. Where and how are you experiencing God at this time? Let's add more layers of meaning to our understanding of this canvas. Engage your imagination. Enter into the scene as a separate character or one of the four figures, or perhaps in the space that Caravaggio has left us in the front of the basket of fruit. What do you see from your perspective? What do you hear? What word would spring to your lips? Critic Andrew Graham Dixon stated, "The painter has asked himself a series of direct, straightforward questions about the story that he was given to depict. What happens to the world when a miracle takes place? How might it be possible to tell should the risen Christ suddenly come among us? What do things actually look like at such moments?" Caravaggio here is trying to capture the moment of transcendence. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. Jesus and the three witnesses, let's look at them in turn. The figure on the bottom left, most historians claim, is Cleopas. He's dressed in Roman clothes that wouldn't be out of place in a Roman tavern in 1600. He is both pushing back from the table and leading towards Jesus. A combination of, "How can this be?" and "Isn't this great? The women were right." How do we react to the presence of Christ in our lives? Then there's the figure on the right with a shell on his tunic. He has a red nose as though he has a cold. His arms stretch out away towards us. It's as though he was thinking, "But you were crucified." And he holds his hands in that position. He has a shell indicating that he is perhaps St. James. That's part of St. James iconography. If you make the Camino to Santiago de Compostela in Spain, to the Cathedral of St. James, the way markers are similar shells, and pilgrims wear that shell as an emblem. Then there's a skeptical innkeeper looking on in bewilderment at Jesus. He doesn't see it. In contrast to the other two witnesses, the shopkeeper stares uncomprehendingly. Caravaggio has a habit of painting himself into his works, almost as an autograph. As in other works, he may be all three witnesses, like us in the presence of Christ, astonished, uncomprehending, amazed, having that aha moment of faith. Our hearts burning. Perhaps he is all three. Caravaggio himself was a complex character, and that's putting it generously. He had genius in bringing biblical scenes to life in ways that people could relate. He was very much in tune with the Counter-Reformation push to have artists make the scriptural stories accessible to all, and to this new idea from the newly influential Jesuits that we can benefit by putting ourselves in the Bible scenes. Jesus is very different from the others. He is in robes, the clothing that Caravaggio and his contemporaries would have thought Jesus would wear 1600 years previously. He has long hair, whereas the others observed Roman styles of dress at the time. He is not bearded, as most representations of Christ were, but his faith is youthful and almost feminine. It's only with the eyes of faith that Cleopas and his companion were able to recognize him. Let's add another layer of meaning to our understanding of this canvas. Caravaggio painted this masterpiece for a private collector in Rome, not a church. Most of his church commissions were vertical formats, whereas those for private collectors were landscape format. The painting is full of tension and contradiction. We've seen some already in the figures. We see others in the dramatic artistic technique of the chiaroscuro, the dramatic lighting. There's realism here. The tear in the green jacket, the decaying fruit. There's also artistic techniques here that draw you into the scene, that make you want to take that empty place at the table. The bowl of fruit just about to fall off the edge of the table towards you. The right arm of Christ stretched out to us. And the hand of the disciple on our right also stretched out towards us. There's also a great deal of Christian symbolism here. What do you see? Let's look at this basket of fruit that we see nearly toppling over the edge of the table. In the weaving, we can actually see one of the ancient symbols of Christianity, the ichthys, or the fish. Can you see it emerging? Here's a sketch to help you out. Also on the right hand side of the basket of fruit, you see the shadow? It looks like the tail of a fish. Again, another reference to that symbol of ancient Christianity, the fish. Gently rest in this scene for a while. How does this image lead you closer to God? For what? For who are you grateful in this experience? Prayer is completed in action. How does this prayer experience connect with your life? How can your insights into this Visio Divina help others? Which insight or part of the image do you most want to carry with you? What remaining questions do you still want to explore? Many thanks for staying with us, abiding in beauty with us, as we've explored Caravaggio's Supper at Emmaus. The original is actually in the National Gallery in London, England, if you want to explore it by yourself. Join us each month on the last Sunday of each month for Visio Divina, 7:30. You can get the link by registering with the St. Monica Institute of the Archdiocese of Toronto. Thank you and God bless.